Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In this lecture, we will cover the Partnership Act 1932 and allied concepts given under this act. This act gives us guidance about relationship of partners as well as the relationship of the partners with outsiders who are not the partners. We will see the concept of partnership, its essentials, and the relationship of the partners as a principal or an agent. Then we will touch a little about the difference between partnership and other various forms of business organizations. The scope of implied authority of a partner to bind the partnership by his acts will be is dealt. Then how the share in the partnership is transferred and what are the rights and obligation of such transferee. Then the mode and effect of registration of a firm, and what is the effect of non-registration of a firm on rights of partners and third parties. And lastly, we will see the various circumstances in which a firm is dissolved and the consequences and effects of the dissolution upon rights and liabilities of various parties. Later on in the continuation of these lectures regarding Partnership Act 1932, we will also see briefly the provisions of the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2017, which is relatively a new law, and it deals with the regulation of the limited liability partnerships. So, as we know that partnership is the one of the very popular form of business organizations with a sole proprietor, and the companies are other forms of business organizations. To understand better the concept of partnership, we can compare the partnership firm with a stock company or a private limited company, and in this regard we will see that as regard to legal status, the registration of a partnership firm does not create any legal status of the partnership itself. So, a partnership firm has no independent legal existence. It cannot own property. It has always be in the name of the partners. Similarly, the partnership firm can only be sued in the name of the partners. So, as such, independent of the partners, the firm would not exist. While a company is a separate legal entity and it has its own existence distinct and independent of its members. Then second differentiation is regarding agency. So, in a firm, a principal agent relationship is created between the partnership between the partners and the partner. So, one partner cannot claim that his act are not binding on all other partners, because the partner will act as an agent, and his actions will bind all other partners as well as the firm, and they are responsible for the act of the partners. While in a company this is not the case, the member or the shareholder acts in his own personal capacity. Other shareholders and company is not binding to are not bound to take responsibility of the act of any member. So, as long as there is not express authority by the company or shareholders company's shareholders meeting or the board of directors resolution, the action of the shareholder would not bind the company or the members. Then in a partnership, the profits of the firms are distributed as per the terms of the partnership deed, whereas this is not the case in the company. There is a complete mechanism regarding declaration of the dividend in the form of the profit, and in case of a company only it is upon the recommendation of the board of directors, then the shareholders approve the amount of dividend which will be paid to the respective shareholders. Then in a partnership, the liability of the partners is always unlimited, unless we see there is a limited liability concept introduced under the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2017. Under 1932 Act, the responsibility of the partner is always unlimited, and his assets can be, his personal assets can be sold in case the firm is dissolved or the firm faces a recovery suit from any of its creditors. However, in the case of a company, it is the very basic principle that the shareholders of the company have limited liability only to the extent of the amount they have not paid on their paid up capital, and in case of a guarantee limited company, the shareholder will be liable to pay only to the extent of the amount he has guaranteed to pay in case of winding up. Then in a partnership, the partners own the property jointly. The property of the partnership firm is jointly owned by all the partners, and they may own their personal property separate from the property of the firm, but they jointly hold the property of the firm. But in case of a company, since company has a separate legal existence, it can own property, and no shareholder can directly claim ownership over that property, because the property of the company is exclusively owned by the company. In a partnership, the transfer of shares cannot be made without the consent of any partner. In case of company, we see that privately limited companies which are in the nature of a quasi partnership has the same characteristic of a preemptive right of all other members, that in a private company a shareholder cannot sell his shares unless others consent or decline to take those shares. But in case of a public company or a public listed company, such a restriction is not there. In a public company, the members can sell their shares after following the procedure given in the articles, and if the shares are on the stock exchange, their transfer is unrestricted as long as they are following the rules and regulation of the relevant stock exchange. Then in case of partnership, all the partners can manage the affairs of the partnership firm, unless they agree in the partnership deed that some of the partners will manage the affairs. And partnership deed, if not restrict anyone, then all the partners are entitled to take part in the management. In course of a company, the shareholders can only take part in the management of the company if they are elected as a director of the company. The position of the director is filled through election, and all the shareholder participate in that election, and only the directors who take the requisite votes, they are elected as the director of the company. A partnership cannot exist without a contract between the partners, but there is no formal registration requirement in case of partnership. But a company can only exist or incorporates once it is registered. The company is registered under Companies Act 2017. It's a typo error. And as regard to winding up, a partnership can be dissolved anytime at the will of the partners, and the company can only be wound up by the High Court, relevant High Court, if grounds are met which are given under section 301 of the Companies Act 2017, and a company can also be struck off by the Registrar of Companies. Now we will move to section 4 of the Partnership Act, which defines the partnership as partnership is the relation between persons who have agreed to share profits of a business carried on by all or any of them acting for all. And in a partnership firms, the persons who are together to form the partnership are individually called the partners, and collectively they are called a firm. So we can break up this section, and these essentials of the section 4 can be seen in context to an example. The first one is that there must be an agreement among all the partners. So it has to be through a written understanding and a written agreement between the partners to form the firm, because minors are incompetent. Generally, the minors a minor cannot be a partner in a firm, but section 30 states that in case all the partners with consensus can take someone who is a minor as a partner, and the criteria of such admission should be the only the benefit of the partnership firm. Then there has to be sharing of profit of business. The partners should agree to share the profit or loss of the firm, and for example, A and B agree to work as carpenters. A is to receive all profits and B is to work for wages. A and B are not partners, because the primary condition that they both have to share the profit as well as the loss. In the example, B is to work for wages and he becomes employee of A and not a partner. Then business carried on by all. The fundamental principle is that partners are agent as well as principals. So each of the partner acts on behalf of other partners and the firm. Therefore, a relationship of principal and agent persist in the form of a partnership. And the example is A, B, and C are partners, and D will deals with the firm through C. As between C and D, C is principal. As between A, B, and C, C is agent. Hence, A, B, or C may sue D if D defaults. So in this case, C acts on behalf of A and B, and vice versa. A and B are the principal and C is acting on their behalf, and in this case C is the agent. So in any case, either of A or B or C can sue D if D defaults, and in a reverse scenario, D can also sue all the partners or the firm because C was acting on behalf of the firm. Then fourth essential is that the relationship of partnership arises from contract and not from status. So the basic essential is the agreement among the partners to create a partnership. Every partner is an agent of the firm. They become liable for the liabilities, and this essential principle is also explained in section 5 of the Partnership Act. So partnership is not created by status, means that if few friends or a family is acting as association and they are doing some business, essentially they not maybe treating themselves as partners to each other, and the fundamental requirement is that there has to be some implied or express agreement between the partners, and such agreement can also be oral agreement. In order to determine that whether an association is actually a partnership or not, section 6 provides the criteria which has to be seen to determine whether a partnership exists or not, and it states that in determining whether a group of persons is or is not a firm, or whether a person is or is not a partner in a firm, regard shall be had to the real relation between the parties as shown by all relevant facts taken together. So there is a case law which will show to us that how this section has been interpreted by the courts. These are three leading cases: Cox versus Hickman, Bullen versus Sharp, and Ross versus Parkland. In these cases, the test given under section 6 was scrutinized by the courts, and the question of determination whether a partnership exists or not was decided by the court. So, the number one factor is the real relationship between the parties. So, the facts and circumstances of the relationship as well as the real intention of the parties and the contract among them should be considered. So, to declare a relationship or an association as a partner, the real intention has to be shown on record, and in legal proceedings it has to be proven through evidence that the intention of the parties or the partners were actually to formulate a partnership. So, it was also held in these cases that sharing of profit by itself would not always result in a partnership, and a person who hold joint interest or common trust in a property may not be partners. Furthermore, it was also clarified that the receipt by a person of a share of profits of business will not by itself make him a partner in the firm. So, again the test is to determine the relationship of the partners, and it has to be seen that whether there was implied or express contract to bind each other in the relationship of a principal and agent, and as long as such a relationship is not established, the association of persons cannot be termed as a existence of the partnership. So, in these for example, when a money lender's receipt of money from a partner or a servant's receipt of money as remuneration from a partner, or the receipt of money by the widow of a deceased partner, or the receipt of a previous owner or part owner of the business will not always be taken as a receiver of such money as a partner in the firm, because intention has to be the basis of forming such a partnership. So, among three cases mentioned above, one of the case law is explained here. So, in this case, some traders who are in difficulties assigned all their properties to the trustees who are carrying on the business. One Mr. Cox, also a trustee, did not take part in that business at all. Mr. Cox was acting as a trustee and not as a business partner, and the question was whether Cox was liable as a partner for the liabilities incurred by the trustees, and subsequently the House of Lords held that Cox was not liable because sharing of profit in itself is not an accurate test, but that was not conclusive. I mean, the sharing of profit is not the only or a conclusive proof that the partnership actually existed. The real test is whether the business was carried on behalf of Cox and whether he stood as principal towards the traders. So, in this case, within the meaning of section 6, Mr. Cox was not declared as a partner in the firm.